Good day, guys. Good afternoon. It's a great day in cartoon creation land. And today, let's see, there's probably only one or two people watching right now. I'm just going to proceed as if there were a bunch because I don't expect this is going to be a long session, but I wanted to do it to kind of just bring some things up to date and recap some of the recent work that I've been doing, and share a couple things that I've been learning. So that is my agenda today. I had mentioned in the last video, and by the way, while I talk about that, I'm just going to let the current shot that I've been working on loop. I had mentioned in the last video, not the last video I posted, that was like a speed paint. But in, hey Darren, how you doing, buddy? And Ashnan, good to see you. Okay, so I had mentioned that as we gotten close to April, that sentence didn't make any sense. As we approached April, because of the idea that I had kind of put out there about crowdfunding, I had mentioned that I kind of went through a dark night of the soul that always happens whenever, hey Maria, by the way, always happens whenever I create anything, pretty much anything. And that's that place where you just kind of feel like, oh my gosh, this thing sucks so bad that nobody's ever going to want to watch it, blah, 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 blah. And indeed, I certainly went through that. And, you know, there's two things that come out of that. One is, you know, the emotional aspect, but then there's also the clinical information you glean when you get real honest with yourself and say, well, let's look at what we've been doing, and as pragmatically as we can, let's say what's good, what's bad, you know, and then whatever's bad, let's try to freaking well improve it. Okay? So with that in mind, let's first take a look at this sequence, and then I'll bop over to a little experiment I did drawing a character from Bleach in Krita. And that's probably what I'm going to cover today, and that'll be about it. But I think it'll be good stuff. So basically what we're seeing here is it's actually about a 50-second long shot that was all done in Krita, except that painting right there, that background, was actually a real watercolor painting that I did. I just thought it'd be fun to do one of the backgrounds, you know, the old school way. And then this clip here was done in Tahoma, and I'll explain shortly why I jumped over to Tahoma for that. So, okay, so with that, I'm going to stop this thing from looping, and let's just kind of look at what we have here. Okay, so basically, oh, by the way, regarding Krita, again, I can't say enough good really about 4.4.3, the latest version. Probably a stupid idea to do it this way, but indeed I went ahead and did a 50-second long shot, the whole continuum in Krita, and even the parts that were done in Tahoma, I pre-rendered and actually brought back into Krita. So, you know, that's living dangerously. Krita certainly was showing me memory consumption of over 3 gigabytes. But you know what? It basically never crashed. It never crashed, other than when rendering JPEG image sequences. I have no idea why that causes a crash. I thought it was because if I was looking at the shot, you know, okay, so here we have this really long image sequence that I'm scanning through right now, right? Okay, so if I re-rendered this whole scene, and in Vegas in my editor, I'm actually sitting on the other screen looking at I'm looking at this sequence, right? Okay, so I'm sitting on this particular shot. What'll happen is when you render from Krita, once it gets to this image that is already live somewhere else, in other words, the the image file is probably locked, Krita would crash. Hey, Golden Slime. What I found out is, no, that's not quite it. That does cause a crash, or at least it certainly seems to, but it also appears that Krita 4.4.3, even when there are no such problems, it'll still crash rendering JPEG image sequences. I don't think I've had a crash with a ping image sequence, so I've kind of just said, okay, screw it, we'll go back to pings. So anyway, like I said, let's just go ahead and I'm going to reactivate the full screen preview so we can kind of see what's going on. So, and so this is just a recap to say, you know, what are some of the takeaways here. If anybody's like, hey, animation and game development practice, you're new here, haven't seen you before. Okay, so if you guys want me to open up the Krita file and look at, you know, look at and or discuss any of the aspects of what I went through doing this very, very long shot, I'll be happy to do that. But, you know, only if you ask me to, because I'm going to kind of discuss it generically, you know, just talk about it without necessarily going through the software too much. So there's not much to say about this shot because it's obviously just a pretty simple animation. So what I did here was, I think what I did was, most of that was actually done with an airbrush, actually. Now, this part, I took the animation of Asher. I believe I pre-rendered it somewhere. I don't know if I pre-rendered it in Blender or Tahoma, because I wanted to put the animation in there of his head zooming towards the camera. But I just pre-rendered that and then brought the image sequence back into Krita. So again, we're talking about a pretty high memory footprint with all the image sequences I was bringing in. And then I duplicated the layer in animation and game development practice. Long story short is the following. I've been using Vegas for 20 years and have edited multiple feature films with Vegas. So pretty happy with it. But the other thing is, without exception, every single time I have tried DaVinci Resolve in the last 10 years, it has essentially crashed. I mean, you install it and it immediately starts crashing. I mean, that's been my experience with DaVinci Resolve. So other people's experience may be different, and I don't. It is an incredibly powerful package and one of the best color correction tools on the planet. I've just had crappy luck with it. So, you know, others may differ. And if I wasn't using Vegas, you know, who knows? I'd probably take DaVinci a little more seriously. I know Ed Tadeo uses Hit Film Express, which obviously is not as capable, but it's certainly a very capable editor, you know. So then there's lots of ways to do it. I mean, obviously you could do the editing in Blender too and just pipe stuff through the node editor or whatever. So okay, so again, this shot actually took a photo of a watercolor painting that I painted, and then I don't even think I did any digital fix-ups over top of it. And by the way, as far as Premiere goes, I think Premiere is pretty good. I'm not an Adobe guy, but way back in the day, I worked with Premiere, and it was atrocious. I mean, it didn't even compare to Vegas in terms of performance or stability. And by the way, that's why I've been kind of ranting about Krita 4.4.3, is that it has improved dramatically, both from the standpoint of performance and from the standpoint of stability. You usually don't get both. So 4.4.3 is the best Krita version I would have to say I've ever used. So that's just saying. So I'm basically a Vegas, Krita, Tahoma Blender guy. I mean, that's what I use. I added the monkey in there because I thought, as I had mentioned in a previous video, these sort of anime idioms that you see from time to time, I think will help to make the show fun and clear. Help, you know, we use these little This part was fun. What actually happens is he's frustrated because um, if we backpedal a little bit, we see that he was on a really important mission, right? Okay, it's like this really important mission, and the letter that he's got to deliver that's in the bag gets stolen by the monkey, and so so it's like worst case scenario, right? Everything's gone wrong. Um, Animation and game development practice is full of advice today. He says you should use OpenToonz as your primary animation software, or to Tahoma because Krita is drawing software instead of animation software. Yeah, I mean, I would say uh, AGDP, that generally probably most of the people here know that. I've been using OpenToonz for the last couple of years. As I mentioned, a lot of this show has been done in either OpenToonz or Tahoma. So whenever I need to like use the animation tools, uh, I tend to go back to Tahoma. I like Tahoma over OpenToonz because you can cut and paste imagery from Krita into Tahoma. So anyway, what I was saying about the story is, Monkey has stolen the letter, and now he smells something good, and he is kind of a slave to his nose, frankly. By the way, this is a little caveat. I'm going to tell you guys a secret that people who like dance around on my channel and like watch the speed paint that I just posted a couple days ago. There's a dirty little secret that I'm going to reveal right now about that speed paint. And the dirty little secret is the whole I just wanted to see if anyone would notice, right? No one noticed so far. 100 and some views. I mean, it's not a lot of views, but nobody's noticed that at the end of the last video I posted, it shows the final shot. The final shot is this. And in point of fact, the entire shot was completely redone in Krita. So you've got like a 10-minute speed paint that's all in Blender, but the actual final video that shows at the end of the speed paint video is the redo of it in Krita, and it's not even exactly the same action. So like I said, I wanted to see if anybody's paying attention. So far it appears no one is. I don't, you know what, AGDP, when I'm doing Discord, which isn't very often, I would probably be on Darren T's Discord server. So Darren T did show up here a little bit ago. He's somewhere in the comments up towards the top. So Darren is, he made a comment. Hi, Dave, everyone. Darren is the quintessential OpenToonz and Tahoma guru, if you want to learn those softwares. So, and he's got a Discord server. So sometimes I check in there, but not too much, really, frankly. So anyway, you're still lurking. Right on, man. Okay, so that was the dirty little secret. This is the shot that was in the speed paint, and it's not even what you see being painted through the whole video. Sorry, guys. I just wanted to see if anyone would notice. I didn't think anyone would notice it, and they haven't. So that I thought this part added a lot to. Once Monkey smells this smell, it's like, and that was actually done really, really quickly in Blender 2.79. It was just all grease pencil. I just whipped it out in like 15 minutes, but I thought it added a lot actually to the storytelling. I thought it made it fun. So anyway, okay, so back to this. What I was gonna, oh yeah. So what's happening here is he's contemplating how bad things are going for him because now he's lost this letter, and then what he's hearing is Asher saying, "It's absolutely essential that this letter not fall into the wrong hands." Which, of course, the letter fell into the wrong hands, right? So that's a bit of a problem. I didn't want to ask you about the speed paint because I watched you draw it twice on your stream. Fair enough. Cool. Yeah, okay, so the weakest shot in the sequence is certainly this one. And that kind of dovetails into the reason I started live streaming today. Again, I have been going through the Dark Night of the Soul. I'm feeling better. I actually think that, on balance, the show is pretty good. And while in past discussions I've sort of referenced things, shows like Del Toro Quest or Avatar as being sort of inspirations, the truth is, at least from an aesthetic standpoint or a style approach, I'm sort of channeling fairy tale more, and I kind of like that idea because in terms of the story concept, there's absolutely no similarity between what I'm doing and a show like Fairy Tale. But visually and stylistically, I'm kind of really trying to learn everything I can, basically. Here's an example. Like right this, I've actually got a couple screenshots from Fairy Tale that I put underneath this because I just wanted to sort of pragmatically say, okay, how does my shot compared to the Fairy Tale shot? One of the things I noticed was these little greebles that they put everywhere in the ink work. Again, this dovetails into the reason I live streamed today. Is I'll just say it now. The difference between accuracy and precision. There's a difference between accuracy and precision. I think of accuracy as being about the drawing. If you look at this screenshot, this is a pretty bad drawing. I mean, from the standpoint of anatomy, it's pretty weak. But what I have found, I mean, if I'm honest with myself, is that I've erred in the other direction where, well, okay, I should say I have the conceit of telling myself that I've erred in the direction of being more accurate at the cost of precision. And the fact is that's just baloney. The reality is, as you'll see when I jump over to Krita, I'm pretty challenged in regard to accuracy too. But the reason I titled today's discussion "Why I Suck But I'm Getting Better" is that I'm getting better. You know, the greebles I mentioned are kind of an aspect of that, but really, really good precision in the ink and paint. Okay, so that's an area where I feel like I need to improve. All right, so now getting back, I'm shifting gears a lot here, but when he goes like this, he's so frustrated. What he does is he looks up at the sky and he says, "Little help." Okay, right here. And this is what happened. You hear choir singing, and all he gets is this. I'm not feeling it. Okay, so that's what's going on there. So this is another good example of where I'm trying to bring more time-tested anime idioms into the show. So I figured the way to do it was I wanted to use the opportunity to test doing a particle system in Tahoma. So just to kind of button that down quickly, what I did was I used the Steam particle system. Thanks, Ashton. I appreciate that comment. And by the way, AGDP, the situation with audio and dialogue is I had contemplated two approaches. Okay, approach number one, and hey Yvette, good to see you. Approach number one was to go ahead and grab dialogue clips from the movies that I've, written, directed, produced, whatever, and with some of the actors that I know, because there's a lot of them, and several have already sent me voice demos. So I thought about sort of extracting some audio and slapping it over some animation, just see who works for what characters, kind of thing. The other approach, which Valerie sort of endorsed, option B, which is let's do a proper casting call like I've done with movies. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm gonna basically tell all my people, which as far as viable potential actors that I know and have worked with, you're talking about, let's say, several dozen at least anyway, that may have an interest in auditioning for a part or whatever. So, but the thing about it is, and one thing I've definitely learned from filmmaking is casting can make or break your movie. I mean, you can have and this dovetails into why I wanted to live stream today too. It's that difference between precision and accuracy. You can have a pretty good script and do a lot of things right, and if you screw up the casting, the movie will suck. And I've done it. Believe me, I've done it more than once. And it's really only on the last couple movies I've produced that I've really felt like I've sort of gotten it right from the standpoint of casting. So you got to get the casting right. Now I know that I'm going to be Asher, because I can do the voice of Asher, and I think I can do it well. And I can maybe do the voice of Mel, but I'm going to try a few other people as well. So here we have the shot, and it is what it is. So he basically looks down and sees Monkey slipping into the tent, and then what we're going to do is, oh, that little rat, and then we'll go on from there. So that's what's going on with the show. Again, there's a few things to get in order. So I'm being patient on the whole crowdfund thing. I want to make sure that I'm comfortable with my ability to deliver the goods. Okay, so this is what I drew today. And I even wrote these notes to myself. This is in fact very, very bad. So I took this character from Bleach. This screenshot reference here was up on the other screen. Okay. And I drew her, and it's interesting because I used the liquify tool to actually make some corrections and do this and that and the other. Ultimately, it didn't actually make any difference. When I cut and pasted a screenshot reference, I realized this is not even close. I mean, it's under some circumstances, man, if things were moving fast, you get away with it, okay? I get that. But basically, it's not even close. So what do you do about that? Well, it really underscores for me that one of the things that needs to happen on my show is, and it's amazing. What am I? I'm a third of the way into. I'm glad to hear that, AGDP. That's why I'm here, pretty much. I'm trying to show that this is in fact possible. I mean, right now we are precisely 4 minutes into the second 24-minute episode. And that second episode also has 9 minutes at the end already done. So there's 13 minutes into the second episode is done. So basically the second episode is more than half done being animated, and the first episode's completely done. So there's a lot there, and there's still quite a few things to fix up, but basically, we're cranking along. So, anyway, my point was, how do you get as far as I've gotten and never have this? Well, that's the sad reality is I've gotten as far as I've gotten without having this, and it seems to me that this is mandatory. This is absolutely gotta happen. Is to take all my characters, and I need to do proper character model sheets. And I think those are an important element actually of the whole crowdfund thing. I think it's important for me to demonstrate that I've got the brains and the discipline to have the appropriate assets in place that will help assure a good result, right? And the crazy thing is, when I took this, just that, as a help, as a reference, then I drew this. Now, my brush was a little bit thicker than I would prefer. But the point is, look, again, no contest. No contest. This version needs a little color correction, blah, 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 needs shadows. Yeah, I get it. This is way better than this. And the only reason it's better is because I took half a second to make sure that I was on character. So this is a sin I've committed more times than you can count. Now, when I talk about precision versus accuracy, one of the we'll jump back to the show here. One of the things I mean by that is that for a while there, I had the conceit of wanting to get the aesthetic of. Actually, I should go back to this screen and put it full screen, like so. And you kind of see it here. Is the aesthetic of scanned pencil art, like they have in anime, like when they do it old school. By and large, that can work, but by and large, for me, I think it's a step in the wrong direction because it tends to encourage sloppiness. So I'm finding myself doing more ink and paint with, say, for example, the Bezier curve tool or a brush with a really strong stabilizer on it because, and actually, let's go back to this shot and you'll see what I'm talking about. Actually, this very clip right here, I'm glad I jumped to the right place. Like this line, compare these two lines. Look at this line. This line was fixed using the Bezier curve tool. This line is what I originally drew. So his face looked more like this before. And the reality is, if you look at this at half resolution on a small screen, yeah, you can probably get away with it. But is that really what you want to do? You really want to do crap and then try to excuse it in some way? I don't. So this is part of my dark night of the soul. I've had to go through and go, okay, dude, there's a lot here that really you need to just take. How much time did it take? AGDP asks how long it took to make the first episode. Okay, technically not a fair question, and I'll tell you why. Because I essentially gave myself a year to learn how to do what I'm doing. Okay? And there were a lot of missteps along the way. And so if I was starting all over today, I think I'd probably get done. The pace of working on it would be slower. I wouldn't be as hurried, but the actual rate of progress would probably be faster because I've learned so much, okay? And this is a good example of what I'm talking about. There is no penalty to the extra time it took to make this line really clean and smooth and perfect. There's no penalty other than a little bit of time that it took. But what good does it do me to have it all look like this line if I know darn well I'm going to have to go back and redo it later because I'm not going to be happy with it? I'm going to beat myself up and say, geez, dude, And one might ask this question, well, Dave, why does that happen? And this is probably the culmination of today's discussion. This tug of war between, accuracy and precision. What's really going on psychologically? And you guys, some of you might be able to relate to this, especially if you're trying different software and to some degree you're looking for the tools to make your life easier or help you get the result. That's a dangerous way to think that I've been guilty of more times than I can count. It's dangerous because then when things go sideways, you blame the tools. The tools are not the problem, and the tools have never been the problem. So all of the comments you guys have made about, say, DaVinci or Premiere or whatever as far as editors go, you can make the same comments about different animation software. The reality is it doesn't matter. Moho works. Clip Studio works. OpenToonz works. They all work. The problem is not the tool or the software. It never has been. And as Valerie walks past me, she's probably chuckling to herself. Why don't I? That's the question. I've had to do some soul searching and ask myself. And here's why. If you don't have confidence, then, at least me, okay, this is what I do. If I don't have confidence, then what I do is I hurry because I want to see a finished result. I want to see a finished result because I want to see if it'll work. The problem is, if you approach it, especially with a mental dependency on the tools, or psychologically you're blaming the tools if things do go sideways, then you're programming yourself to fail. You're programming yourself to do something that later you're going to look at it and go, it's not good enough and I need to redo it. Why? Well, because you hurried. Because at the point when I needed to draw this line, instead of taking half a second and making it exactly right, I did it choppy. Because I was in a hurry because I wanted to see if the shot's going to work. I want to see. That's a really stupid way to think. What I'm learning is the slow way is always, 100% of the time, 110%. The slow way is the fast way. The fast way is the slow way. Because unless you have really, really low standards, you're always going to want to redo it. You're going to want to fix it every single time. And so what the discipline I want to develop as a creator of cartoons is I want to be really vigilant so that when I see something going sideways, I'm just scrolling through here for the heck of it. You know, for example, with this flocking system of these birds. It happened, actually. What happened was the particle system was working, but these birds were essentially just lines. Line. They didn't really look like birds. Okay, so then, but I did the right thing in this case. I was vigilant and I said, well, wait a second, Dave. Those don't really look like flapping birds. Just go into Tahoma right here. And let me see if I can just pull up the last shot I did. It's probably this one. Yeah. Okay, so what I did was I said, well, wait a second. Let's just go in. And by the way, I forgot. If it's not in render mode, there we go. So there's the birds. Let's see which layer these guys are on. Oh, they're over here. Okay, so I just looked at the birds and I said, geez, dude, they, you know, it was just like line, right? They didn't look like a bird. And so taking literally 1 minute to just finish drawing the stupid bird instead of being too in a hurry to see the finished result. The point is, when you approach your shot or your scene, I don't care what software you're using, your mindset should be this: I am going to succeed. I am going to make this shot good. I am not going to compromise. And again, I'm going to succeed. So now I don't know what the problems are necessarily that I'm going to bump into along the way. But if I didn't approach it with not the certainty, but the determination to succeed, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to, every freaking time, I'm going to get in a hurry, and I'm just going to whip it off to see if, you know, like I said, you want to test it. Test. See if it'll work. What that produces, and I use myself as an example of what that produces. What it produces is a lot of work that you can say you got it done real fast, but the problem is it still sucks. And when I say it sucks, a lot of people might look at what I'm doing and say, well, in the big scheme of things, yeah, it's kind of impressive. But the problem is that's not good enough for me. Okay? I have to place this toe to toe against any anime that I'm seeing. Obviously, there's a range of, you know, if you look at these characters here, there are anime that go much further in the detail and precision and beauty of the lines. They're also way more expensive. I'm one guy doing this, right? Okay. And I respect the fact that within the arena of cartoons or anime, there are a range of stylistic and aesthetic standards, right? So if I look at the work of the guys from Trigger, for example, you know, Gurren Lagann, Little Witch Academia, you know, Yo-Yo Shinari's tribe, they get away with murder on the accuracy side to a degree because they just keep things moving so much. And you can do that. That's a valuable tool. Sometimes by using animation and movement, you can actually excuse a bit. The danger is, are you now, because you're looking at it that way, giving yourself excuses all the time for crappy work? Because if you're going around excusing crappy work, then eventually it's going to, if you're a good person and you have a high standard, it's going to catch up with you because you're going to look at it and go, well, you know what? I got bad news for you, pal. I got to redo this shot. And by the way, I have to redo this shot, and that shot, and every single freaking shot has to be redone. I'm kind of trying to move away from that. Trying to move towards the idea that I'm going to be sufficiently, number one, determined to succeed, so I'm not testing stuff. I'm not testing. I'm blocking it out on paper, actually, because usually when I do that, the shots turn out better. When I actually map it out just on one sheet of paper. It'd be like creating one page of a manga. Yeah, I mean, Darren's got the right idea, exactly. So I draw, I wish I could show it, but I really can't right now, but I've got these sheets where it almost looks like a comic book or a sheet or a page of a manga or whatever, manga, whatever you want to say. I think manga is the correct term. When I do that, the shots almost always turn out better. Like, well, actually, every single example I can think of where I've done it, of which there's probably by now at least a dozen of them, they always turn out better. And it's a little freaky because they turn out better even if I forgot that I did it on paper and come back to it a week later or whatever and just do it. It turns out that it winds up being really close to what I did on paper, not even using the paper as a guide. So I've found that to be a really weird thing, but at least that's been the case for me. So anyway, I think that's about it. I wanted to share these things I've been learning. I am making progress. There are things happening in the background very slowly, very patiently in regard to casting and voices, as one of you guys mentioned. You know, just making sure I got my ducks in a row before I go talking a lot more about what I'm doing in the context of a crowdfunding thing. So, like I said, I probably spoke about the crowdfund prematurely. I mean, in hindsight, I probably there was no need to say a word about it. You know, because I do want to make sure I have my ducks in a row before I sort of make promoting that, you know, a thing. So anyway, I'm going to take a quick look here at the comments. Thanks for your comments, Darren. Always good stuff. Seems that the more you sketch out the movement before you ink, you're happier with the result. Yeah, and for me, the big thing that I've where impatience has launched in a big way. And by the way, I'm kind of loading up. I wonder if this is the shot. I think it is. You guys can see here. I'll show you. This is pretty massive. Where I've gotten impatient is absolutely at the ink and paint stage, and it's pretty much got to do with line quality. So, and that's where I may be coming back to Tahoma more, because just because with the smart raster levels, you know, you got the ability to tweak the colors after the fact. But you can see if I make this as big as I can make it. I mean, check this out. This is a big scene, and these long blips here are actually full animated sequences that I just re-imported back into Krita. That sort of gives me a measure of safety, because once they're brought into Krita, they're no longer referencing the image files on the disk. You know, so I've sort of got an inherent backup, right? This is the Asher shot where this layer just adds the well, I guess I got the wrong layer, but there's a layer that gives it a sort of a glowish kind of thing going on. But you know what? I'm impressed with I just can't say enough. Krita 4.4.3 is easily the most stable and performant version of Krita I've ever used. You know, in at least a couple years now of fiddling with Krita. So there you have it. And I mean, I don't know what the memory footprint is, but I'll take a look. According to, yeah, 3,500 megabytes, so 3.5 gig. Never seen Krita do so well with that type of a memory footprint. So can totally endorse it. And again, I to get back to the comment earlier about OpenToonz, what I've been finding myself doing is, which some of you obviously know this, is if, like for example, take this shot. If I wanted to have his body sort of move, you know, throw his head back, for example, when he shouts, maybe throw his head back more. It would be quite useful to take this character and bring it into Tahoma, and I believe you can do that. Just double checking here, but I believe we can do that at the group level. So this is the group that contains the whole character with his shadows and everything. And if I just go Control A, Control C, I believe that it will cut and paste into Tahoma whatever's in the group. Ah, no, it doesn't look like it. Let me try it again. I don't know if I can do that. I might have to bake it down, but let's just see. Okay, it looks like it's going to work. Yep, see, there you go. So I mean, that's pretty powerful, because now you've got all the capabilities of Krita as far as drawing and painting. And anytime you need to move things a little more, just take the whole character as a complete object and bring it in. And now, hit the X key, create a mesh, apply the mesh, build a skeleton, boom, boom, boom. I'm not doing all the details I'd normally do, but okay, there you go. Stretch this down and go into animate mode. And here we kind of go like this, and over the course of a second or so, he throws his head back. Right? And then if you wanted to, you could pre-render this little sequence and re-import it into Krita, which I did again several times, like this sequence was re-imported, just by going File, Import Animation Frames. And then you just browse to where you've rendered it and go from there. So anyway, I am gonna wrap up with that. I think this has been a fruitful session. I hope somebody's found it useful. Sketch and finalize before I go to color. The big immediate thing for me, I'm just reading through the comments. The immediate thing for me that is very, very important is I need to get the I need to go ahead and create proper model sheets for all my characters so that going forward I can just refer to them and I'm not guessing when it comes to characterization. So, yep. Okay, so good comments, guys. I think I'm gonna wrap with that. Yeah, it's been 45 minutes, so, and but I just bopped on. I'm still gonna continue. I expect for the next couple weeks I'm still gonna be on the quiet side as far as YouTube goes. I'm not trying to sort of video log my entire process at this point because I'm actually spending a lot of time offline. I mean, I've taken pages and pages and pages of notes, grokking out what am I doing right, what am I doing wrong, how can this improve. I'm really going through a fairly rigorous personal awakening at the same time that I'm also going through a rigorous critique of the work that I've done on this show. So, but I am determined to succeed, and if it takes a little longer to get there, who cares? It doesn't matter. And I would encourage you guys all to do the same with whatever you're working on. Just, have fun, be vigilant to when it's going sideways, and fix it, because you can. All the tools we have, all the free tools we have, Blender, OpenToonz, Tahoma, Krita, we've got everything we need to do whatever the heck you got in your brain, you can make it happen. And if you don't, it's your fault. It's nobody else's fault. It's not the tool's fault. I tell you what, G-Man Animations, thank you for that comment. I haven't dug very deep to find out what exactly is on the agenda for Krita 5.0, but man, it's not a deal breaker because, like this ability to share content between Krita and Tahoma is pretty awesome. But man, I would love to see what they're going to do on the animation side with Krita, and hopefully it won't introduce instability too much. I would guess it probably will for a while, but that's pretty normal with open source projects, Well, it's like Blender. When Blender went to 2.5, it took them almost 10 years to really, 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 really get it right. And then once they finally got it right, then they went to 2.8 and completely scrapped 2.5. So these things do take time. There's actually 3 Blenders out there. There's the pre 2.5, the 2.5 to 2.8, and the 2.8 plus. There's essentially, obviously there's a lot in common, but they're essentially 3 different programs. And I would know because I've been using Blender since the year 2000-ish, actually 99, I think. So anyway, that's it for me, and I'm going to go, and you guys rock and roll with whatever you're working on, and thanks for tuning in. As you know,